Ready? Okay, 2 lines from the bottom on Chav Ches. So we are talking about Oil HaChesed being in Kli HaGvura. And as we discussed, this is a very important point. The decisive factor is the oil, not the keili. And as I pointed out, we have to reflect on this. That's not an easy, not a simple thing.
What is it that we have to reflect on?
That the decisive factor is the oil, not the keili.
Decisive in what?
In that way, we decide what the message is, what the statement is, what the conclusion is. Is it going to be Mekel or Machmir? As I explained, and we have to. I said this needs to be properly understood. What is in fact the difference between the oil and the keili? And the simple explanation is that the keili has what's called the compelling element. The keili must be what the keili is, under the circumstance. The oil is not speaking in terms of the circumstance. It's speaking in terms of what is the truth, what is the reality. Like we gave the example of the table, very simple, but it gives you a chance of relating to the concept. If you have a logical reason to put the table and the sample is in the table in the room for experiences, a reason for economic reason of space and so forth, or even ease of access. This is all part of keili. Because in all of these instances and more, you're not speaking about where the table really belongs in terms of a table. You're speaking in terms of using the table. Of a practical a reason that is not really expressing what the table is about. Then there is a completely different principle, that the table and the room have a certain relationship, where the table is not an extraneous thing, it belongs in this room, and the room needs the table to be completed, and the table needs the room to be where it belongs. Because if it's not in this room, it's not a table. It's not really a dining room table. This is an oyer concept. And what I said was that the conclusion is on the basis of the oyer, not on the basis of the keili. In other words, with all your arguments that it's more expedient to put the table in the corner, to put it this way or to that way, the end result is that you will come up with a conclusion as to where to put the table so that you get the full richness of the table in the room. And sometimes it may take up more room than necessary, or than economically possible. But you will nevertheless do it that way. This is the concept of oir. When you say oir ha-chesed or oir ha-gvura, you mean precisely this. You can argue, it doesn't look right, it makes a bad impression, all kinds of different arguments as far as being lenient or being strict. But Oir HaChesed has a completely different statement. Oir HaChesed is what's called being benevolent, being open to all the possibilities, giving all the different benefits of the doubt, so to speak. And the mission says, "Havei danas kol odom l'kav schus," which means you should give a person the benefit of the doubt. Why? Is it possible that he did it, that he actually did the wrong thing? Of course it's possible. But this is the schus that a person has living in this world. That because there are all kinds of different tendencies, all kinds of different pressures, all kinds of different possibilities, who do you give a benefit of the doubt? Let's think that. A benefit of the doubt is given to a person who deserves it. Not because you say, oh, it probably happened this way. You don't know how it happened. So somebody like a human being who belongs in this world, who has rights to be here, and he has a shlichus, he is not here an intruder. So he deserves a benefit of that. Somebody who doesn't belong here, who is an intruder, he doesn't get the benefit of that. You don't belong here in the first place. Why should I be considerate? This is the chesed element.
I'm trying to see if I get this difference here. There's one who is deserving and one is undeserving. Usually we say chesed is expansive and not discerning, so it does not discern the difference. This one deserves, this one does not deserve. What's being pointed out? What's the point here? I'm not.
Okay, I see what the confusion is. No, I'm not talking about deserving of chesed. talking about chesed is being expanded, expensive, opening. Who are you going to be expensive to? A dog comes in to your home. Are you going to say, hey, come on, be considerate, be expensive, be welcoming? So this dog is totally tame. The dog doesn't hurt anybody, never hurt anybody. That's why I say very often you meet up in the street with dogs, and the owner says, "Don't be scared. He doesn't bite. I don't like dogs." How can you not like dogs if it never hurt you? So this is outside of the Inyan Chesed.
It's not a fitting recipient.
It's not a fitting recipient altogether.
And Chesed just makes that distinction.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Without making that distinction, you're just not in the reality.
Even though usually we say Chesed unto itself is just outgoing, just
correct. But loving a dog is outside of the human purview.
Fine. And
it's ridiculous.
Okay, and I kind of lost track of how this fits inside what we're saying about keili or how
so I'm explaining that chesed makes sense. There is a truth expressed through chesed. It's true. It's not compelling. The keili it's compelling. There's an argument. This is not a question of argument. This is how it is right, how it should be. Do you understand the concept of a table being in the middle of the room or being in the corner?
Mm-hmm.
Although practically speaking, it's more efficient to be in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
This is what it is the right way that it should be. There's no argument about it. There's no reasoning behind it, a practical reasoning, so to speak.
Okay, so too by the chesed that it makes sense.
So when you say you're makel, you're being lenient. Being lenient means that there's a circumstance. Pardon me. Being lenient is not something that is compelling on you. Being lenient is saying that this thing should not be excluded. Okay, so you can't even think of what that means.
It's not compelling, but this thing should not be excluded. It's not circumstantial, meaning it's not.
Let's talk about something specific. There's a question about learning Torah when you are Tomei. Ezra made a gzeira that under certain circumstances a person is not allowed to learn. Paltiel is not allowed to learn. That was a gzeira that's called Tvilas Ezra. Then ultimately, as time went on, it was recognized that generally people cannot live up to that standard. As a result of that, Tvilas Ezra was bottled. It's no longer compelling as a gzeira. If it's a gzeira, then you have to follow it. It's no longer compelling as a gzeira. There are some people who are still living up to it. As a matter of fact, Chassidim, they table themselves every day in the morning before anything, for davening, before learning, before anything. Not because of Tvilah Seira, because that was bottled, but for extra tahar. So in this instance, if somebody is not table, will you allow him to daven by the Yomid or not? There is no halacha against it. What then is it dependent on? That you will or you will not allow him to daven by the Yomid? It depends on the level of chesed. Who will you accept even though it's less than perfect? If it's halachic forbidden, there's no question. This halachic is permissible. My father-in-law, when he grew up, he was davening. He belonged to a certain chavra, to a certain group, the Stopya Besmedrash. And the Stopya Besmedrash, in those days, this was a question. Anybody who shaved was not permitted to go to the Yom. Now, everybody, Baruch Hashem, this is broken too. But then it was a real Yisrael. Because most Jew Bachim were shaving. Anybody who shaved was not permitted to go to the Yom. My father-in-law was also shaving at that time. And the Rebbe, there was a Rebbe, Stopya Rebbe in Besmedrash. He says, next, you are allowed to. You can go to Yom even though you're shaved. Because my father-in-law was a tremendous Yerushalayim. Very mahadir in mitzvahs. He says, next. He felt they can't exclude him. I can exclude a person like that. It's not a halakha question. There's no concrete reason. But without chesed, you can push him out. Or you can say, no, this is the rule in this matters, and there's no exceptions. You could have said that too. This is a little bit approximating the concept of chesed and gvura. This chesed, I said, this is called oir ha-chesed. It's just a sense of right, of yes, it should be this. It's not a question of deserving, it's just a name for chesed. Inclusive. Okay. So therefore, this is what we're discussing right now. The oil ha-chesed in kli ha-gvura, which means like this: even though Bishamai is from kli ha-gvura, but there is Shammai felt there's an oil ha-chesed. There is a truth coming through that directs you into the chesed, even though your own tendency normally is you can't be lenient to anything. You have to be strict to the law. That's the inclination. And yet there is an Oil HaChesed that leads you to a different conclusion. As an example. So this Oil HaChesed was not due to your nature, that you're naturally inclined to be inclusive. It's just, you see the circumstance and you feel that this is a Ayin for Chesed. Even though, on the contrary, your nature is a complicated. I said, in this Besmedrash there was a takana initiated by this Rebbe that you cannot go to the Yom without mikveh, without if you shave. Very strict ruling. It was not very common in those days. All right. This is what my emphasis was. I'm saying the Oil HaChesed. That's why this is how Oil HaChesed can be in Kli HaGvura. Because you can't convince the Kli HaGvura that Oil HaChesed, that this is the right thing. You're not living up to the strict rule. It's not convincing. It's just the overpowering of the oil, of the rightness of it, of the correctness of it, of the truth of it. How do you feel now about it? Getting Oil HaChesed. וכנוידע בעניין דלת פרשיות. And this we will understand also, as you know, from the principle of Dalet Parshas, the 4 Parshas in Tefillah.
Saying if it's overwhelmed by it, but is it like it's
what?
He's saying it's overwhelmed by it. It doesn't mean like it doesn't sit comfortably with it. Is that
what?
You're saying that the Kli HaChesed, the Kli HaGvura, sees the truth of Or HaChesed for this situation. Does that mean like it's like uncomfortable for it? It's like. It has like internal.
Yes, because because naturally he tends to his Gvura.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, his tendency in terms of understanding and saying truth and right and wrong, he would feel much more comfortable if he can go according to Gvura. Which is not the information. But he sees there's Oil HaChesed that is overwhelming. You can't ignore this quality, this aspect. It's called inclusion. You have to be inclusive. The Rambam says that we have tzdukim amongst us. So originally the tzdukim was something the Rambam speaks fire. But then the tzdukim that we have amongst us, they are not tzdukim by conviction. This is Masi always. They inherited from their fathers. This is how they were raised. They don't know anything better. So then Rambam says, again, then you have to be makarev and help them come through there and perhaps, hopefully, and redirect their attention. But you can't push them away, even though they are definitely in an absolutely very wrong way.
It says,
Huh?
I saw in a commentary over there once that that's actually a different psach than Rambam gave on his commentary on the Mishnah. They gave a different.
That's right.
Just the second time. So
Yeah, well. That's right. Okay. Yeah.
I'm confused because we do say that the oil is poshet, right? And
The oil, right. The oil is poshet. But this poshet oil contains in it chesed and gvura equally.
so, what to see from the poshet or chesed or gvura depends on keili, right?
Depends on the keili, because the kli hagvura will identify the gvura aspect in the oil, and the kli chesed will identify the chesed aspect of it. Okay, but it still remains oil.
I'm probably going over the same plate this morning. I think it was asked what would then make someone who what would make a clear gevura recognize chesed in that simple order.
It would not would make it. It's just it's contained already. And if you try to get the full message from the Rav, you must notice the chesed element in the oil. It isn't that the keili comes blinded to it and is not interested what the Rav is trying to say altogether. The complete message. He wants to get the complete message. And that's why it's possible that he would notice the chesed element. This must speak about. I gave a message this week. I don't remember which day. Today, yesterday, the day before, about somebody walking on his hands.
Today.
Today.
Mm-hmm.
This morning. Okay. So that is I think a means to understand the concept, because walking is something which is a koyach halicha. And normally it is identified with feet. Hands do not relate to the koyach halicha. But if somebody is bent on it and is very athletic, so he can relate the koyach halicha in his hands. And he feels comfortable with it. Okay. So the meaning of that Oira Chesed Mischala Mekli Agvura is Kimeida Binyan Davar Pashis. Okay, the following will.
Where are we?
We are on the bottom of page of Ches, 2 lines on. This will kind of give us a little bit of a handle what the Rebbe is trying to say. Dalet Pasha is in the 4 Pashas in Tefillah. Shehein Dalet Moichi. These 4 Pashas represent 4 Moichi. What does it mean, Moichi? Moichi means brain. What's the difference between Moyach and Lev? So it says moichin, moyach is karvelach. It's cold and moist. Okay. The heart is heated up. Whatever the heart relates to, it has a personal experience with it. So that which is identified in moyach, this is why intelligence is, seichel is so significant. That which is identified in moyach is identified because of its pure truth, not because I have a personal feel for it. In the heart, like Chesed and Gvura, this is a personal, it touches you personally. That's Chesed and Gvura. But that which is in Seichel, you relate to what is the truth. As a matter of fact, Chesed Seichel says, what is the divine truth? What is the higher truth? Which is completely above you. This is Moich. Here we say that we have in the tefillin which represent Moichim, we put it on the head. And there are 4 Moichim. But there are 2 Moichim, not 4 Moichim. So what is the Dal Moichim? The Dal Moichim say Dal and Ches, Chochma, Bina. Chochma and Bina are clearly Moichim. And then there is Chesed and Gvura. The Moichin of Chesed and Gvura. This seems to be odd. How do we consider Chesed and Gvura in the category of Moichin, which is Midas? They're actually Midas, not Moichin. Okay, now perhaps is the time to go into nitty-gritty of these terminology. Midas means what? Midas means measurement. Moichin is the brain, which are not limited to any particular attitude. When it comes into Midas, if a person actually feels the Inner HaChesed, he feels compassion, he cannot easily turn around from compassion to anger, because that becomes a personal experience. That's what Midas. Midah means it's measured according to this attitude. The principle of compassion, from the heart perspective, like I said, people see a dog and have the compassion for a dog. It's completely misplaced. But mitzad the midah, you feel that the dog is in distress. Mitzad meichin. That meichin means what is the significance of this distress? When you have a human being in distress, the significance is that the human being cannot live up to fulfilling his purpose in life, of being a human being in the full sense of the word. He's a compromised human being. If a dog is injured, you see a dog walking on 3 legs. Yes, it's painful. Quote unquote, it's a rachmanis. But what does that mean? So he won't chase rabbits. But when a human being, he is so compromised, then he's not able to fulfill a very primary human pursuit, human obligation. That is really a union of comparison of Rahmanos. Okay. In other words, mitzad the midah itself, it can be completely misplaced. But mitzad the moichin, it gets a broader perspective, and it goes to where it belongs. Even to the extent that the Gemara says, this is a camel quote, "Shoiter also l'rachem olav." A shoiter, everybody knows what a shoiter is. A fool. Also l'rachem olav. It is forbidden to have a rachmanas on. Not forbidden to have a rachmanas on. Rachmanas is completely misplaced because he doesn't live up to his human standard, human obligation. All his pursuits are skewed, are completely misdirected. Like, for example, he's crying over the fact that his dog is injured. I mean, we have this, I get all kinds of reports from my children were there. You know, the guy was in mourning for his dog and, that kind of thing. This is midas mithat meichin. And it's completely misplaced. Okay. So, chesed and gvura per se are midas. How do midas of chesed and gvura?
Rabbi Paltiel?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yes. Hello?
I'm sorry. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good. So just before we move on, the shaita, you're not allowed to have rachmanas on him. How does this relate to what we always talk about, the drunk, the guy you find in the gutter? You don't leave him there, even if he protests. What is that? That's not rachmanas?
Of course it is. Of course it is.
In other words, this guy is better than a shaita?
This guy is better than a shaita, yeah.
How is that? The shaita doesn't even know that he's a shaita, is that it?
A shaita is one who is in full health, and he inherited a huge treasure. And he didn't know what to do with it. And instead of going to someone for advice as to what should I do with this wonderful treasure, he went and he splurged it on nothing. Nothing. He gambled. He flew around the world 17 times. Whatever. That's a shait. It's not a person who lost himself.
I'm not sure I clearly get the distinction there. So I'm sort of sense what you're saying, but it's a side point anyway.
Okay. But the point is, in what we're trying to understand, what is the difference between moichin and midas? So that's what it says. Rabbi says it's a pella. How can we consider chesed and gvura v'ishal midas b'bchinas meichin? How do they fit into meichin? There's a very sharp distinction between midas and meichin. Midas are entirely personal. This is my inclination. This is how I feel. Moichin, as we said before, moichin is what's called pshitus. They relate to what is the truth, to the godly truth. What is the truth of the world? And moichin identify with this truth. How it should be. Midas is when that truth has been limited to a personal inclination, which is also true, but this is not based on purely on the truth, it's based on a personal inclination. Whereas moichin is when it is completely based on the truth. Is that sufficiently clear? Let's continue. Maybe have a chance to talk more about it. Midas is, even if the Midah identifies things correctly, but Midas this is a statement, I like it this way. Moichin is a statement, this is the right way to do it. This is where it belongs.
One more time. Even if Midah identifies things correctly, it is still based on its preference.
Yeah, personal preference.
In contrast to, this is correct.
Right.
So it's almost like by fluke that what it likes seems to fit with correct identification.
That's right.
It just happens to be his habit, his personal.
That's right.
In contrast, real seichel will even choose something that is correct but is opposing his personal preference.
That's correct.
Okay.
So there's much to speak about it, but we have to set some kind of a limit at some point. But the question is clear. How can we consider chesed and gvura, which are midos, in the category of meichin? Ayin hu kanal. However, the Ayin is explainable kanal according to what we discussed so far. Shechesed and gvura, shemechshavim lemidos. That chesed and gvura, which we consider goes into the category of midos, I know that is ki shehoires bekelim shechesed and gvura. This is true when the oires are fit in kelim of chesed and gvura. Shesham, where there in the kelim of chesed, in the kelim, he mischalkim liyos chesed and gvura. There they subdivide, really to be strictly chesed or strictly gvura. Alidei mezeg hakli kanal. As a result of the mezeg hakli, this morning we discussed the principle of mezeg hakli. Mezeg means the admixture the structure, the qualities that go into making the keili.
I'm not sure I understand this concept of mezeg.
Mezeg, I gave you the example of mezeg, and you remember from the moon reflecting the light of the sun. The principle of keili is, as opposed to oir. Oir is a direct reflection from the source of the oir. That's what's called oir. Oil is not a substance. It's not a tangible entity. And as we've always emphasized, we're not talking about the energy flowing from the sun. We're talking about light, which is not there's no substance. That's what oil is. Oil is always dependent on its source. Why is there oil? Because there's a sun. Not because the sun gave off a certain, what is it called, certain waves of energy. Kelim, on the other hand, kelim means that it is composed of a receptacle, of a tangible receptacle. It's always relative, but that's where the infant came. Keili means that it settled into a definitive place and a definitive structure. Oil does not have a definitive place, nor does it have a definitive structure. Right, we'll still have to speak about it more, but that's the principle that oil does not have a definitive place is because the oil is always emanated from the source. Who is holding up the oil? The source of the oil. What makes it that there's 12 hours of light, of daylight? We discussed it last time. What makes it that there's 12 hours of daylight? Is it the light or is it the presence of the sun?
In a way, it's neither. It's the rotation of the earth.
Oh no, it's not that much. Is it the presence of the sun, or is it the light? It became light, so it stays light.
Presence of the sun.
The presence of the sun. The sun already gave light, so but it has to be complete, continue to be present to give light. Yes, it must. That's what light that doesn't exist independent, separately from its source. Keili, on the other hand, is when that is taken into a receptacle. And that is independent of the source. It is how that light is utilized on a lower level, on a place where there is no light. That's a keili.
Or is that point about no light? It's the way.
The place where there is no light, and the light is being utilized in the place and in the keili world.
As if to say the light is now cut off from its source.
No. It is used not in the terms of it being of its connection to the source. It's used in terms of its being in a keili. Give an example. What is the effect of light in the world? In our world. We speak all the time that there is daylight, there's light, and there's daylight. Daylight, as we spoke many times, daylight is a phenomenal thing. It is pure light. It's not just making things visible, it is just transforming the world into light. But how does the world, the keili for it, how does the world utilize that? What does it mean, this daylight, as far as the world is concerned? But it means it's Yetze Adam L'Fa'ali. That's how keili interprets it. Doesn't take the purity of light. Oh, it's light, let's go and just experience this beauty of light. That's not what daylight is. Daylight is Yetze Adam L'Fa'ali, we don't see how they are. In the keili,
Yetze Adam L'Fa'ali is in a way lower than if he just went out and appreciated
life, of course.
But yet this is the real manifestation. When he goes out and gets involved in...
This is the real manifestation. This is in keili. This is where the light is in keili.
So as partially absent, partially concealing the wonder or the connection. Okay.
Right. This is when it becomes a keili. And then it acquires certain parameters, certain qualities. What is its value? How is it utilized at the keili level? At the keili level, like I said, the Yetze Adam L'Fa'ali.
No, okay.
1 second. Think about this. This is when you go to work. Is work a chesed inyan or a gvura inyan? Depends if you have a job or you don't.
Depends how you look at it.
But this is where it's defined already in concrete terms, so to speak, in worldly terms. But that's not what Oyer HaShemesh is meant, in essence, to be. Somebody who does not have a job. Let's not be very passionate about it. It happens. Temporary person doesn't have a job. Can he benefit from the Oyer HaShemesh, from the daylight? But not in a concrete worldly fashion.
In some ways, he can benefit more. Many people go to work in the dark. They come home, it's dark. The guy is not working. He sees the real sunlight.
That's right. Okay. Okay. So here we have from personal experience, we have a clear understanding. What means the oil is in a keili. In a keili, it acquires the contour, so to speak, and the definitions of that keili. And in keili becomes chesed and gvura.
Is this already our answer to why the two of them are included in the Dalit Parshios?
This is our answer, but we have to clarify it.
Oh.
Our answer consists in the following. I don't want to go off too much in time. The answer consists in the following: that the oil Hashem, the oil itself, is not chesed nor gvura. As we said, the oil, the daylight, transforms the entire reality. It's not chesed and gvura; it's a different reality. But when it is mislabesh in the keili, how it is reflected in terms of in the world, there it can be chesed and gvura.
It almost has to be a mixture of those two elements, yes?
That's right. In general speaking, those two elements. It can be a combination of these two elements and so forth. But this is how it is translated in a keili.
And okay.
So this is what he's saying. That the Ayin, that the chesed and gvura are chesed and gvura, are limited chesed and gvura. This is when they're in the keili. But the oil of chesed and gvura is not chesed nor gvura.
It's really seichel, isn't it?
The oil is very seichel, at the level of seichel.
Mm.
I invite you to, I don't want to go, as I said, we made up to be within certain limits. Just want to go, since we got to this point. It's not always an opportunity to point this out. The oil is oil hayyim, and we're saying, and when it comes into the world, it becomes a name for chesed and gvura. What do you do with it? Yetz odom l'fo'ale. Now this Yetz odom l'fo'ale, as we pointed out many times, there's a big difference. Is there a person going to work, like I say, it's a night, but he's got a flashlight. And he can find his way in the dark to go wherever he needs to go. He has a bright headlights in the car and he can drive safely. There it is, literally oil in a keili, limited to the keili. It has only the keili quality. Whereas when you say yetzel l'fo'ale, daylight, even though daylight is also translated in a keili, where it says, okay, what do you do with daylight? Utilize it to be able to go to work. Yet still, even though you are utilizing it this way, it does not completely lose its oil element. Meaning to say that when you say, I go to work by day, I go to work by day because I can find my place of work by day easier. There's another reason why I go to work by day, because that's the right time to go. It's the right time to venture out, because it's day. This is why people are insisting all the time. Day is different than light. In other words, the oil element is not lost, even though it's in a keili. So even though it becomes a keili, it becomes chesed or gvura, but it is the oil within the keili. And this is why this can be called moichin. It's the oil element. It is not a midah that is compelling, that becomes personal. If you are you're using the light because it gives you opportunity, it makes it possible to find your place of work, that's personal. In the dark, it's very hard to go around. But if it is the sense of the broader daylight, then it is not limited to the chesed and gvura. There is still the union of moichin remaining there.
Could we call that teferes?
No, we call it moichin.
That's the or.
That's the oil in the kliya ches, and the kliya gvura.
So, you would say Adam Lafoiloi. It's not actually that he goes out to work that is the best manifestation.
Right.
That he remains cognizant of the fact that it's day.
Right.
Which makes it right to go to work.
It's the right time to go to work.
The real manifestation of the daytime is in the acknowledgement that it is day. That's the least functional element.
All right, gentlemen, there's so much to be added here, we'll leave it at that. Okay. This is what he says over here at the very last. Just 1 second, I just want to finish the second line from the top. In the kelim, they become chesed and gvura in the real sense. Are they mezeg ha-kelim? What's mezeg ha-kelim means? Mezeg ha-kelim means the contours of the kelim. What the keili consists in. Mezeg means the admixture of kelim. Like I gave you the example of the sunlight being deflected from the moon.
Admixture.
Admixture. And the various contours of the keili. A keili, by definition, has a dimension, and therefore it has all kinds of different places, flat places, valleys, mountains, and this is the light of the moon that we have. If the moon were completely a totally flat surface, the light of the moon would be completely different. As is, it's pretty bright, but then it would be completely different. Because there are the different contours in the moon that interfere with the reflection of the sunlight.
This is the mezeg.
This is the mezeg of the keili.
Mezeg is like the definition.
Mezeg means the mixture of the various materials going into making the keili. Like we said, the midas are felt in the heart. The heart is a physical nerve. Some hearts are some physical hearts are more physical, more hard, more less sensitive. Some are more sensitive.
Chesed or gevura al yedei mezeg ha-keili, as if to say, the nature of the vessel is dictating whether it's becoming chesed or gevura.
Right. It's not dictating. It is. It identifies. In the oil is identifying the chesed and gevura elements.
This morning, you said, with respect to the moon, that the moon actually has all these bumps and craters and different irregularities on it, and if it was completely flat, I didn't quite understand what you were saying.
I said if it were completely flat, then the light of the sun would come in a totally different brightness and totally different power than it does now.
Much more so.
Much more so. Absolutely.
If it were a complete mirror, in effect.
A complete mirror of the sun, exactly.
But it's not.
But it's not.
So the mezeg, that's the mezeg ha-keili with the moon.
Right.
But this Meschalek, that seems to be the work of Sechel, to Mechalek Chesed or Gevura.
No, okay. The Seichel is Meschalek in the keili to become Chesed and Gevura. This thing that you say Seichel is Mechalek, this is not seichel. This is the das. That's mechalik.
Okay, but
But
still.
chokhmah and gvura, chokhmah and bina are not divided in chesed and gvura.
Okay, but still the function, the role of seichel to differentiate, not the keili per se. It sounds like here al yedei, because of the nature of the vessel, because of the materials of the vessel, that's what makes it chesed. Really,
Yes.
yeah.
That's right. Let me explain. Just like we have the motion of the moon. The moon reflects the sunlight, the brightness of the sun. But it reflects it by a function of the fact that light is deflected from a physical body. This physical body has all kinds of different contours. As a result of that, the light will be deflected differently. This is the sensitivity of the chesed and gvura in the keili.
Right. So whatever the work that was.
Let's take the example that we said before, the Pharisees, right? The
Pharisees.
Pharisees,
Pharisees.
right? So the Rambam says they're not to blame. This is how they were raised.
Oh, the Sadducees, Sadukim.
The Tzdukim,
Sadducees. Okay.
Pharisees. They're Tzdukim. Okay, this is how they were raised. To them, this is the truth as was presented. It's not being perverted somehow. This is the truth as they were given. So here we have two aspects, two reactions from our viewpoint. On the one hand, by them this is the truth. If this is the truth, then therefore they're respecting this truth as they were taught. Therefore, we are not going to blame them and blame them in the sense that we're not going to say that they are wrong in what they're doing it, because they're not doing it from a wrong perspective. This is the truth as they know it.
And that came up because that's an example of.
Okay, so in this particular situation, right, there's two ways I can. There's the way the Meichen are going to take it, and there's the Midas are going to take it. The Meichen says they're not doing anything wrong. They're following through in the way they were raised.
Well, that's already sounding like Midas, right? That by pure moichen they're off the derech, they're doing something incorrect, but will have Rachmanis and say they were raised that way. Well, why is it?
No. See, the Rambam is very angry at the Sadukim because they are evil people. They are misleading our people. But these are not people who are misleading our people. They're not aiming at misleading our people. They're following their way, the way they were raised. There's nothing evil coming out of these people, per se.
That's the more seichel
analysis.
Okay.
Right. On the other hand, so you say, okay, so we cannot, in a sense, look at them from an evil perspective. Okay. Then you come with Midas and say, but listen, I have to help them. I have a rachmanas on them. That particular in itself will elicit Ayin of rachmanas, elicit Ayin of trying to bringing them close, and perhaps have them change their ways. That's already in a different vein, a different attitude on the practical point of it, how you relate to them personally. All right.
Who are the Tzedukim, the Greeks?
No. Jewish people who were Tzedukim.
In what period?
In what
What period? When?
period?